Okay, so here we are live once again with another Masters of the Universe Origins unboxing, and this is a first for the channel from the Sketchbook series. Since this is Sketchbook series, I'm guessing there's going to be more. Inspired by the original concept art, Hordak, ruthless leader of the evil horde, and Grizzlor, hairy henchman of the evil horde, and my oh my, do these guys ever look different from what we eventually got? So, if you remember the original version of Hordak and the vintage line, he pretty much looked like this. This is the Origins Hurricane Hordak figure, and Hurricane Hordak looked pretty much identical to the regular Hordak. The only difference was is that his chest plate opened up and he shot this, or not Hurricane Hordak. This is Buzzsaw Hordak. I'm sorry, I got my wires crossed. So yeah, Buzzsaw Hordak. You open up his chest and he shoots this buzzsaw out of it. Hence the name Buzzsaw Hordak. I don't know why I was going to Hurricane Hordak. It was my fault. Sorry about that, folks. You know, even I get a little confused sometimes. But yeah, this is Buzzsaw Hordak. So, and you can see that Buzzsaw Hordak, like the original Hordak, he had a basically was wearing a gray. The body was gray, had black armor, black boots, black gloves, black furry trunks, red cape, which unfortunately with this one is permanently attached to the figure, and this large collar piece. And you can see I was never really sure if this was supposed to be a gray outfit or part of his body because it could go either way. Most of his face is this kind of bone white color, but you can see around the edges of the face it's the same shade of gray as the arms and legs of the figure. So I'm not sure if it was originally supposed to be a skin or not. Now I know in the Masters of the Universe Classics continuity they established that it was indeed his skin, but it's hard to tell with a guy like Hordak, who's a shapeshifter and kind of biomechanical. But in the classics line, I think originally he had blue skin that faded to gray, or it might have been the other way around. Because of course on the animated series, She-Ra, Princess of Power, he had blue skin all over his arms and legs, and you can see his head was all white. It didn't have any of the gray at the edges of it. So I'm not sure what the intention was originally, but at least in the classics version, yeah, that's gray skin there. So and if we look at the original figure, we notice he's got that sort of bone white skin color all over his body. And Grizzlor, man, Grizzlor is an even bigger departure from what we actually know. I can't tell if he's supposed to be a wild boar looking guy with extremely long tusks, or if he's an elephant with an extremely short trunk. If he was an elephant, that means he's our second elephant character in Masters of the Universe after Snout Spout. But got a really nice piece of artwork on the back here with this, prototype version of Hordak and Grizzlor fighting off against Vicron. So hopefully we'll get a Vicron figure soon. And back here in this cage, you can see a character from some Mark Taylor artwork, and that was a piece labeled Evil Incarnate, and that was one of the inspirations for the character that eventually became Skeletor. So then we got over here on the side, piece of artwork of this version of Grizzlor, and then Hordak over here. And yeah, I think that's everything I have to say about this packaging. Let's go ahead and open them up. So where did I put my X-Acto knife? Here we go. And where is going to be the best place to open this from? Let's try this side. I'll just cut through this piece of tape here. And it's got a few different tabs that seem to be attached into different places. So how am I going to get this open? Here we go. There we go. That's the best way to do it. Still wound up tearing the package. And I don't know why I care about that. It's not like I keep my figures in the package, but I like to try to get them out without tearing them. It's just some weird thing I do. All right, so let's go ahead and here we go. And one element of this design of Hordak that wound up making its way into the Filmation cartoon, which didn't necessarily make its way onto the toy, at least not the initial version of Hordak, is he's got this bionic arm with like a what looks like a cannon on it, and screw it, I'm trying to pull it out from this side. I think that'll be easier. Uh, and of course, again, going back to the Filmation version, since he was like a biomechanical shapeshifter, he oftentimes had that cannon arm. So, and if you remember, that figure actually came with an extra arm, so you could swap it out with the regular arm or the cannon arm or whatever you wanted to have on there. Right now, I've got the cannon arm on there. And I'm just going to cut through all these tabs. I'm just cutting them all at the back because it just seems easier that way. He's got a lot of spikes and a lot of protruding pieces, so I kind of don't want to screw around with too much. All right, so is that everything? He is in there kind of deep. So there's Hordak out of the package, and you can see that he looks quite a bit different from the figure that we eventually got. He does not have like the bat-like features to his face. Apparently, the original design of Hordak, as he made it into the toy, was inspired by like a tiki mask that was hanging up as decoration. Somebody had it hanging up as decoration at Mattel. But this one, I think, has a little bit more of a Viking sort of feel to it, which would have been really interesting if they had have kept more of that Viking sort of feel that the original He-Man had, where he had a horned helmet. So he could have been almost like a dark mirror to He-Man himself. But looks like the standard He-Man type arm over here. He's got fingerless gloves. He is rather goth looking as far as like the pale skin and the all black armor with a little bit of gray detailing and a little bit of red detailing. And this whole arm is black. You can see there's like a little bit of tech on his deltoid going all the way down to where his elbow meets, and then he's got this this big old cannon attached here. It doesn't seem to remove, but you can rotate it, so there is some articulation there. So we'll go ahead and go over the articulation on Hordak. It's going to be pretty much the same for Grizzlor, but Hordak can only look up about so far because he's got this spiky collar on his armor, which seems like it would be really uncomfortable, and his helmet kind of bumps into it. He can look down about that far, tilt his head kind of quizzically from side to side, rotate his head all the way around. Of course, the arms rotate all the way around at the shoulder, and I accidentally popped it off. Of course, these Origins figures are meant to come apart, so you can change around the parts and have fun with that. But it does seem like when I go to try to rotate it, it kind of bumps into the armor, and that's the thing that's making it pop out a little bit. The elbow has a single joint of articulation, extends about that far, bends in about that far, and of course rotates all the way around. And I already mentioned that this cannon has an articulation, so that can rotate. Hordak's left hand, he only has one hand, rotates all the way around and has a horizontal hinge, so it moves back and forth. Hordak can twist all the way around the waist, and of course, like most Origins figures, he comes apart at the waist, and this spiky belt is a separate piece, and he has the standard Masters of the Universe belt underneath, unpainted, but since he's got like a separate belt piece, they didn't really need to paint that in. Hordak can kick up about that far, and he's got a single joint of articulation at the knee that rotates all the way around. He does have a boot cut, but the way that his boots are made are kind of weird. So, it almost seems like it's, I think it's a separate piece that's put over the shin, but it seems like it's glued on. So I think it's supposed to be on there permanently. He's got these kind of shin pieces that are like these really furry boots with kind of like an armor trim to them. It's an interesting design. And then he's got kind of like the standard He-Man feet, where they're kind of like the sort of leather, like they're not quite boots necessarily, but it's almost more like he kind of tied leather around his feet. So the way the original He-Man figure was designed. Does not have any accessories, but I guess since he's got a cannon already built into his arm, then he doesn't really need that much as far as accessories. So let's go and compare again with the original Hordak. And like I said, technically this is Buzzsaw Hordak, but the regular Hordak looks pretty much like this. and you can see how different these guys are. But you can see how Hordak would have come from this guy, and you could almost imagine this being like a younger version of Hordak, and maybe he like grew more monstrous looking as time went on. So or you could also use him if you wanted to as just like another member of the Horde. Since he looks different enough from Hordak, I don't see any reason that it necessarily has to be Hordak. It could just be like another member of the gang as it is. Also, another thing I want to point out is like he does have this cool bat wing relief kind of sculpted into the back of his armor. And also, it looks like the armor, the belt is kind of symmetrical, so it comes down to a point in the back as well. So I guess you could swap the belt around and have it facing either way. It doesn't really matter. So all right, so that's it for Hordak. Let's go ahead and set him aside, and then we'll move on to Grizzlor. And Grizzlor to me is the one who's the most interesting, shall we say? So I was talking with my good friend Ricky. We had that earlier, and I was telling him about this design, and he was like, so they basically took something that was unique looking and made him into basically Beast Man, but not. And I'm like, yeah, kind of. I mean, like it's almost like they were just kind of trying to do Beast Man again, and make him more furry. So get these rubber tabs off of his ankles. I'm gonna have some things to say about those feet. So, and then he's got rubber tabs around each of these elbows. They put it just deep enough in the package where like it's just easier at this point for me to just cut it from the back. And let's go ahead and have a look at Grizzlor. And like I said, the same with Hordak is this guy is kind of just different enough from the original Grizzlor. You could actually just use this as a completely separate character. But he's got. I'm gonna pop his head off because I want to have a look at this armor. This armor looks interesting to me. So much like the Grizzlor that we know, he's got like this kind of crossed harness with the Horde emblem on it, but he's got a lot more fur trim around the collar. I don't believe that's actually supposed to be his fur because unlike the original Grizzlor, it seems like all of his fur is this same sort of like light brown, dark tan. I don't know what color you want to call that, but he doesn't have like how the original Grizzlor design had the dark tan over the body and the top of the head. And like I said, I kind of feel like this version of Grizzlor, he also is just all tan fur, and he just has dark hair on his head, and the rest of this fur is just an outfit. But I'm pretty sure the original version of Grizzlor, he was supposed to be, that was all his natural fur, just in two colors. So this breastplate does come off, and there is a snap at the back, a little hole and peg that fit together. But I don't ever bother with that kind of stuff because usually with these Origins figures, you can just take them apart at the head and waist like I did, and to me, it's easier than having to fool with tabs and pegs and straps and all this kind of stuff. I don't feel the need to deal with it. So Grizzlor has a couple of random armor plates on his thighs, and those are just kind of held on with these little clips. So they don't seem to me like they would stay on very well. Now you might think that this guy entirely uses Beastman parts, but if you did think that, you would be mistaken because while Beastman shares the same upper arms and thighs with the standard Master of the Universe figures, this guy is just furry all over. So they did actually bother to make new furry arms for Grizzlor. I suspect that these are probably the arms and thighs that were made for the regular version of Grizzlor that was like an internet exclusive that I was not able to get. So I'm looking forward to that cartoon collection, Grizzlor. Let's just put it that way. But I do think it's really cool how he's got the furry texture all over. So that's nice. Hey, Mattel, it might be a cool idea to make a new version of Beastman who's furry all over. That might be a cool thing to do. I would suggest do the red Beastman from mini comics in that style. I think that would be really cool. So he's got boots that look a little bit more like the standard Horde boots, but they don't have the bone trim like this guy had. where he had the same exact boots as sculpture-wise as Hordak. This guy's got different boots. And they might have been the boots that came with that Mattel Creations Grizzlor that I was not able to get. And man, these are some weird feet because he's just got like these kind of mechanical looking, like I don't know if they're armored feet or they're just like prosthetic metal feet, but it's an odd choice on a character that mostly looks like a fairly organic, monstrous creature. And he's also got, it looks like, a metal jaw, which, gee, where have we ever seen that in the Masters of the Universe line before? So go ahead and pop his head back on. And like I said, I'm not sure if this guy is supposed to be an elephant with a short trunk or a wild boar with long tusks. But man, he is ugly, and he's not quite as cool looking, I don't think, as the original. Well, the what eventually became Grizzlor, what eventually was released as Grizzlor. I definitely prefer what to me is the more traditional look for the character. And like I said, this isn't 100% like the original figure either. This is, I think, a bit more inspired by the Filmation animated version. But I do really like that figure. I thought he turned out really great. I'm definitely glad I was able to pick him up. But this version of Grizzlor, on the other hand, I kind of have a hard time even accepting him as Grizzlor. And granted, he was a prototype version, so of course he wasn't the Grizzlor that was eventually released. And I guess somebody at Mattel thought they could do better and completely reinvented Grizzlor from what this guy is. So he does have some accessories, unlike Hordak, which is a repaint of the Terror Claws, which I will be opening Terror Claws Skeletor soon. So if you want to make sure you don't miss that one, make sure you like and subscribe and hit the little bell and everything. But but yeah, so I'm pretty sure these are just completely recast from the original Terror Claws Skeletor. So let's go ahead and put those onto him. And I don't know if maybe that at some point when they were designing this guy, maybe they had the Terror Claws for Grizzlor and eventually wound up saving them for Skeletor instead. Thought that'd be cool for like a deluxe figure of him. But he does look cool with the Terror Claws. That's nice. So if we were going to think about this as like another member of the Horde besides Grizzlor, and if we're looking at the package here, and since Vicron is on here, this would be Horde characters like well in the distant past of Eternia, then we could imagine that maybe this guy was the original wielder of the Terror Claws before Skeletor found them and appropriated them for himself. So are these figures worth picking up? Oh, that's going to depend on a few things. Like, are you a big fan of the Horde? Are you a big fan of Hordak? Do you just want to collect all things Evil Horde? Then yeah, you got to have these because like that's an important part of the history of the characters and everything. But and if you're somebody who's really interested in like the behind the scenes, like the design work that went into creating these characters, and you like having early versions of the characters, I know I do. Then yeah, these guys are definitely worth picking up on that score. And like I said, like to me, they even work as like separate characters. You don't even need to necessarily think of this guy as Hordak and this guy as Grizzlor. They could just be more characters to add to your evil horde, and that's pretty cool. So yeah, I'd say they're probably worth picking up, but these are definitely characters that are going to be a little more niche. I kind of feel like if you're somebody who's a kind of a casual collector of Masters of the Universe, Hordak is an essential character, but he's definitely on like the lower end of being essential. But this version of Hordak, I don't think is necessarily essential. He's definitely more niche. If you're going to want Hordak, you're going to want the more traditional version of Hordak. You're going to want to get this guy, or you're going to want to get the actual original basic Hordak, or you're going to want to get like the Filmation version of Hordak. Even the Ninja Turtles version of Hordak, I feel like, is a more definitive Hordak figure than this guy. But he is still a really cool figure, I think. So these are probably worth picking. If you think they're neat, if you think there's something you might be interested in, then you're probably right. There's something you might be interested in. So go ahead and pick them up. The set's only like $30. at Target, so $29.99. And these days with the regular Origins figures being closer to like $18-19, that's a pretty good deal because you're getting these guys for $15 a piece. It is a shame that Hordak doesn't come with really any extra accessories at all. But like I said, at least he has a weapon and that he has this cannon built into his arm. Grizzlor, I think, is actually the one who wound up getting the most love because he actually has some accessories and a lot of cool detailing to him. So I definitely feel like when they went back to the drawing board on this, or back to the sketchbook, if you want to phrase it that way, they definitely wound up making improved versions of the characters. I'm definitely happy with the version of Hordak and the version of Grizzlor that we got in the vintage line. And there's been a lot of great figures of both of them ever since. So that's pretty much it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you like and subscribe. All the fun YouTube stuff down below. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about these characters, like both the figures and Hordak and Grizzlor in general. And if you're going to buy these figures and have them as part of your Origins collection, how are you going to use them in your version of Eternia? Are they going to wind up being those characters in different forms? Or they wind up being completely different characters? Maybe this is Hordak and Grizzlor from like a parallel universe or an alternate dimension or something like that. Really the great thing about figures like these is that you can kind of they're kind of blank slates in a way, so you can kind of make up whatever kind of storyline you want for them. So I think that's pretty cool. Anyway, I'm going to be back tomorrow, and we're going to start opening a bunch of these Skeletor figures. And since I already have this guy opened and he's got the Terror Claws, I figure we might as well start with Terror Claws Skeletor as far as our Skeletor theme. So that's going to be my next episode. So make sure you tune in for that. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll talk to you next time. Bye.